Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome to the discussion for Meadow, which this was one of those games that whenever we played it, I actually immediately went to my top 10 of 2021, and I was like, is this going to make it? It wouldn't have, but it got pretty close. I think it was sitting at 14 or 15.
Yeah.
This is a theme that I genuinely enjoy, like nature, like wildlife, just the relaxing kind of with nature facts, even though no one actually gives a shit. I'm just like, oh, did you know that wood is good for building sheds? It's just so much fun. The art is absolutely stunning in this. Carolina Kiak! It looks like the illustrator. She did a phenomenal job.
I wonder if they're Scandinavian.
There's something, but this, and so this one, Wingspan, Mariposas, Parks, all those are just delightful games, and this is just one of many that gets included in that group of one that I immediately had to own my own copy. It's wonderful. It's a set collection game at its core. It's not the best set collection game I've played, but it's enjoyable. It's relatively fast, even though you're not doing a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And I think at some point, I think the game goes on a little bit longer than it needs to, because we saw it with you mainly, is that I felt like probably about, I think it was around 4 for you, maybe 5, but just kind of going through the motions of boom, card, and that's the equivalent of top decking to me, which I genuinely don't like. I didn't like that about Dwellings of Elder Vale, how you could just be like, oh, victory points, and then another one, the panda one that moves around. I was gonna say Tamagotchi. That's not it. It's the one where the panda, you have to build up bamboo, and then the panda can move around.
I know what you're talking about.
Takanoko.
Oh, okay.
That's it. That one you can top deck objective points. Yeah. Be like, oh, hey, look at that, I completed that, and then just. And this game does have that. Granted, you do have to kind of set up a little bit, but that was really the majority of what you were doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's the game is very simple, and it could do with. I mean, we just reviewed Arnak, and we had an expansion that made it more complex.
Right.
This could do with something that makes it more complex for people who want it. This is even more simple than Wingspan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because the strategy I always use is thematically, there are certain types of prey that all the carnivores come out when you pull out the North deck. And those carnivores eat certain types of prey, the medium prey. So if you span out a bunch of medium prey and get ready for that North deck to come out, you can just go boom, 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 boom.
I was wondering, because you have played this more than I have, and I'm like, oh, did he figure out the meta?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think he did.
There needs to be more complexity.
Yeah.
I like this part of it. And
the campsite.
And there is, I will say, if you had streamlined, because putting out 10 land isn't necessary, and if you streamline that time rather than, because if you got really, really good at this game, rather than putting a land out, putting an animal out, and narrowing it down to a point of you're just getting pure points and you're only having the amount of base prey and base land that you need, you could potentially do far better than I did or any score really.
No, you're absolutely right, and that was a conscious decision on my part. Was I wanted to see how a different strategy fared, because definitely having 10 lands out, and then kind of doing a wide prey or wide scope, then you're going to have way more options. And I'm like, can you do well with very limited lands and very limited scenery or whatever, landscapes? I think I had 4 total sceneries, and then the objects you can find, and then 6 total things. So I was well short of both of you, and I was like, I wonder if you can do well. You can do all right. I was 11 points behind, which is 3 cards away, 3 high cards.
Greeny has beat me doing scenery cards.
Yes, because they're typically the higher points.
Yeah. I think last time, though, I didn't invest so much in the scenery cards.
Yeah,
but this time with the hand that I had, I couldn't really get a lot of those mid-tier cards, because I was just with what I had to keep getting a bunch of lame.
Yeah, and that actually brings me to my biggest complaint of this game. They do it once in the game where the board gets completely wiped. I wish there was an action it would have been amazing with any of these tiles for you as a campsite action to wipe a row or column.
Like whenever you take an action here the same way that you can put your points here, just one time during the game you can wipe the board.
Yes.
Which would be I really take that for this chill-ass game. Like,
Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as the whole board, but if you're like... Because there were times where West was ass.
Yeah.
It wasn't... There was no sceneries that anyone could play, no items to grab, and it's like, well, the only way you can get those are if you take one of the actions that let you draw 3, and whenever I drew 3, I got one scenery, and I couldn't play it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I guess I got that.
Yeah.
So at least there's that, but it is annoying where there was multiple times I'm looking and I'm like, there's just nothing here.
Yeah.
Like,
Even
find
if you
that-
wanted to pick a random card, there were plenty of times where I'm like, even if I played my pick a random card, like there's nothing here. For
right.
me.
Like how many times did you, like me, just play down, take a card just so you could play a card you got earlier?
Yep.
That take 3 action is really good for getting your bonus requirements.
Yeah.
If it's a good time for you, if there's not many cards over here that you really need. I needed a wolf on one game, I think, and I drew 3 from the north deck prematurely before I came out in the first 3 rounds. And
Gotcha.
I got one in like...
Yeah, I didn't even know you could draw from the north with that ability.
Yeah.
Which...
That's
that's
also how
something-
I did a lot better too. I think I took 3 multiple times my last game, and I ended up going to the north deck because I was looking for specific things. It was just I think I got one card specifically at the beginning that kind of helped me set up the rest of my game.
Yeah.
But
I would have liked more like bonus objectives. I don't much care for bonus objectives where like when me and you both got it, I'm like, okay, that's an immediate wash. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like me getting 9 points is as if you and I both got nothing.
But there was a point where you were going for...
I was going for this one.
Oh, okay. I think you had a fence at some point. I could be imagining that. I thought you were going for one that I was going for, and I was like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't go for that. And I took a step back because I was like, maybe I should just prematurely react and start going for something else.
Yeah, I was going for one where you placed your 4 because that's when I asked, oh, can you place it after? Because I was literally one turn behind you placing my 4. So then I had to search for a house, got it, and then once I placed it, I was like, well, this was pretty much just to nullify any distance between you and I.
Yeah.
And I would have liked... I like endgame scoring to be more unique.
Yeah.
Where it's like...
To be fair, though, Karini didn't even put a mark on here, and if she had had a presence on here...
It would have made it a little bit more cutthroat.
Yeah.
Trying to be like, oh shit, okay, because you know not everyone can get there, so if someone's not
It comes down to
placing
who
their
can
4,
get there first,
right?
basically.
But I mean, I would have liked. I like endgame scoring. Those bonuses, just like, all right, yeah, I got it. It's something else that I can do. But and that's not really a complaint. That's just kind of neutral. My biggest thing is the fact that there were multiple times in this game where I'm just like, I don't want any of these. In a set collection game, you kind of want to build up, and the cards don't. So I have to hope. Okay, I'm gonna take this card, and then hopefully by the time it comes back around to me, there's something else that I want.
Yeah.
Which did end up happening, but more often than not in this particular game, I was like,
And that even happens in, like, Nidavellir. Is it Nidavellir?
Yeah, the other set collection.
I never
No,
know
because
what it is.
Nidavellir, the reason why that one is, I like that as a better set collection is because every card scores you points.
Yeah.
Even if it's not something particular that you want, at least you're like, okay, there's a purple here. I'm not going for purples, but that's 5 points.
Yeah.
Here it's like, that doesn't even get me anything.
Yeah.
Like,
I would say almost all of them get you at least 1 point, except for the base, like lands.
right, which
But
is
the base allows you to diversify, and there is even there's road cards that require 3 of the same land type, which happened in our last game, I think. And I was like, shit.
But you also, I do think this game does have a semblance of luck.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I guess I'll just go there and take that card. I don't need it, but maybe... And then another card that's, like, perfect for you. And you're like, okay, now I can't even take it. And that can be annoying. Where...
I think every time I reach that point, I just go for a land card. If I ever am left without anything, because they're almost always attainable. Early in the game, they're more popular, and then later in the game, they get less popular unless you need them for something.
And, yeah.
But even if you don't need them that second, you're going to need them in the future.
Right. And even if you don't, like, at least you can be like, okay, well, I'm going to take this one. I don't have a berry, but I have all these bullshit cards I've collected throughout the past 3 rounds.
Yeah.
At least I can burn 2 cards to ignore that, because I do have a mushroom.
Yeah.
I think that's their way of mitigating the randomness. But it's still not fun. like, ideally in a set collection game, you want to constantly be, like, building up with your sets. And that's something I think Nidavellir does. They are completely different games. Nidavellir is simple, but the rulebook makes it seem complex.
Yeah.
This is simple right out the gate. So it's depending on what you want. And set collection isn't something I ever really gravitate towards.
Yeah.
I'm always like, ooh, a set collection game.
And I suspect they're going for a family game. It's not really marketed as a family game because this isn't, even though it looks cute, it's very artful. It's not necessarily, it's not like a smash up type thing or a Game in Tokyo that's going to necessarily appeal to kids. I feel like this will appeal to mom or something in certain situations.
But and like you said, this is simpler than Wingspan. Absolutely, Wingspan.
I could play this with my mom, and I think she would pick it up somewhat after the first game. Where I don't think my mom would pick up Wingspan.
Yeah,
she's
and they have announced an expansion already. I don't remember what it was called, but it adds Aquatic Folk. If I had to guess, that probably will add more complexity.
Yeah.
This is a very digestible, fun game. But for me, like, I would play this if anyone brought it up. Hey, you want to play Meadows? I'd be like, sure. But I'm not, like, itching to play it. Because I feel like already I've seen it.
Yeah.
And whenever we were initially going to record this, I was like, let's just do that too, because having a third person doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Having a fourth person doesn't matter. It's just maybe...
I still haven't played it with 4. I want to at some point.
I absolutely do not. Because it really is solitaire. The only thing is, as with drafting, it's like... Okay, maybe they'll take something that I might want. But at the end of the day, it's only about what you get. And this does have another problem that other games have where you could look at someone's board and be like, okay, I know I'm not winning. Like, you had so many more cards, just sheer card amount. I was like,
well,
it was close. And I was like, well, maybe. But, like, maybe if Craney jumped in here. But even if you didn't get your 4.
With 4 players, though, you might see more variety of cards. Because I do think that was, like, the biggest issue this time around. Because I didn't struggle with that the first time. But, like, looking at it right now, you can see quite a few cards that require berries.
Yeah.
And a while, like, we just kept getting cards that, like, required a bunch of berries. But I think I only saw maybe 2 or 3 berries.
I got a berry at the beginning, and I coasted off that for a little bit. And eventually I just covered it.
Yeah.
This game rewards diversification.
Yeah.
Like, hardcore.
Yeah.
And I think in those 4-player games, while you can't plan for what moves people are going to take, you can plan for, all right, I have, like, I was constantly looking at my board, and do I have any doubles? Let's get rid of that double and put something I don't have there. Yeah. If you get a hawk, a deer, or a wolf, that blocks out that lane because there's nothing that eats that for the most part.
Right.
There might be special cards that do it, but really they don't very often.
I think in a multiplayer, I can't remember. Is this board the same? Is there another board?
I know
there's a different campsite for a number of players.
No, that's the same board.
Okay, so that's one of the reasons why I might not like it at more players, because at 3, this is pretty tight, especially whenever. And I love that aspect. I love what card you take is reliant on the token you have, because that is some element of strategy where it's like, okay, I want both these cards.
I wonder
okay, I'm going to place a 1 there, and then I'm a 4 over on that side, because this side's already taken. So you do have some options.
That's what it is. You lose your question mark token.
Oh, in a 4-player game? Oh, okay.
Game.
Okay, good deal.
That's
because I was sitting there and I'm like, that's super tight.
Yeah.
Like, you're not getting shit.
That's the only scenario where you don't get that that token anymore.
So it opens up because you're 1 less token.
Yeah.
But because I mentioned it during the run through, I was like, these games give me anxiety, drafting games, because I'm like, I want that one, I want that one, I want that one, and then it's like, can you hurry up? Damn it! Don't take that spot.
Yeah.
Fuck! I was only thinking of that one spot. Okay. And then if no one takes it, then I'm like, because that happened a few times where even the first time we played, I'd sit there and look at what like you and Kat were like fiddling with, and I'm like, okay, please don't place the 1, don't place the 1, and then they. 3, and I'm like, oh, thank God, all right. And then you'd place, I immediately just be like, I need this one. So it does give some excitement to the game, but for me, I do like complexity. I would like to see, I don't know what they could add. I don't know what they could add to make this complex, because if you add text, if you add weird, I think, obviously, I don't know. Because this is so simple. It's so pure. This is a very pure game, and I love it for that. So the only thing I can think of that might make it more interesting is if you still have the whatever, the objective tokens, but maybe like some Sagrada-esque public objectives, or maybe private objectives that you have. Like you have a card that's like, hey, if you have 5 butterflies in your entire thing, that's worth, 25 points, or something like that.
Yeah.
Something that makes you unique that you might be going for that could be like, oh, hey, I actually completed this.
Right.
Or maybe another deck of objective that you could choose to pull from. If there's nothing out on the board, you could, take from that and maybe aim for different objectives.
It'd be interesting for sure.
I'm trying to think. Oh, one gripe. This game, more than a lot, requires you needing specific symbols, which is on the back of the rulebook of where those symbols are and how rare they are in each deck. That needed to be a player aid for every player.
Oh, yeah.
The first commit had a problem where it's like, oh, here's one pamphlet for everyone to share on all these tiles.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you can print more. I didn't pay for the game for me to do stuff. That desperately needs to be something in their expansion, a symbol sheet. And maybe they didn't do it because they had an expansion planned, so then they would have just had to print another one.
Yeah.
I hope that's the case, but that could be very annoying where you're looking for a very specific symbol and someone else is also doing it, so I'm sitting here like... I mean, granted, it is an easy look. Oh, I need a treat. Okay, east.
Yeah.
But this game could be a lot quicker if everyone could just easily do that on their own turn, and then, boom, I'm going to go search. Your turn. Boom. And then
And especially if you have it there, like, sitting with you, you can, like, outside of just making those decisions in advance, you can also just, eventually learn it a lot quicker.
Yeah.
I think instead of me constantly having to, like, look over there, it's just, like, if it's constantly there, like, while it's not your turn, you can look at some of the other stuff as well, like, that you might eventually need in the future.
Right.
If they just added another... They could add another point mechanism to the game that's slightly more complex than
So,
what
like,
they're doing over there.
the bonus points aren't a wash if people, compete.
Yeah.
Because really what it comes down to is if Creamy did jump out, it's whoever can get their 4 on there first. And at the end of the day, 4 points didn't make a difference.
Yeah.
If it did, then I'd be like, oh man, yeah, that's really tight. But in this case, you had 69. It would have been 65 to 58. And it's like, okay, well, it still didn't matter, and I don't feel any better.
Yeah.
Although I do think... No, I think in the first game you and I played, we both got our points on there, so it didn't matter then either.
I think so.
So this game is definitely on its way, but in terms of like the nature style games, it's definitely better than Parks. Parks is fine, very pretty, but I think I do like Wingspan and Mariposas better just because they are a little bit more complex for me and they scratch that same itch.
Yeah.
But I do own this. I did go out and buy it, and I am excited for the expansion. I might look into that a little bit more to see if they add anything, because I would hate for them... Oh, Everdell, I guess, is another woodland forest, which is... That one's more complex, I think, out of all of them.
We played Wingspan and Mariposa, but we haven't played Everdell yet.
I think you
We
guys...
played Mariposa with
I played
Amy.
Mariposas is weirdly, complex.
We played it wrong, but it was fun.
Because you're sitting there and you're like,
we got
okay,
it,
I'm going
it's
to
like,
move
we messed it up and we didn't realize the butterflies had to go back.
Yeah, they
during
do.
The migration.
Yeah.
And none of us did it, and we're like, oh, well, that was fun. It's still a cool game.
I remember playing Mariposas, and I was flying all the way out there, and I was like, oh my god, I have one turn to get them back. I'm gonna get one. I got one butterfly coming back. Yeah, that one is weirdly deep. Everdell also has depth to it. That you're like, oh man, I'm building my tableau, and then I'm done. I'm already in the next phase, and someone's like really just resource energy, like at their engine, and they're... Because you advance the seasons on your own. So if you pass, you go into autumn. But if people can energize and use their workers and resources efficiently, they can be in spring. And if someone is playing poorly, their game might be over.
Yeah.
It's one of those. It's player based, so like your game might be over before my game.
Yeah.
If I play better than you, or however it might go.
Interesting.
It's really, really good. Also, same kind of vibe in terms of theme.
Yeah.
So this is... It's still good. And I think the reason I'm being more hard on it is just because there are other games that have come out before it. And it's like, I really like this and I just want more out of it. So we'll see.
Or even with cards with abilities. I mean, they could take a note from Wingspan. That might make it too crazy, but...
So that's what I was thinking. That's why I was like, well, if you had text then
You'd
it
have to
bogs,
read every
it bogs
single
the
card.
game down. Yeah, because right now...
Iconography would have to be the way that they would go.
Exactly, which also makes it weirdly complex. It becomes Seven Wonders, where it's like, that's a gateway game. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Here's your book of icons.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Because that's what I was saying. This game is so pure. We can look at one card and immediately know what we need from that.
Yeah.
And how to grab it and how to play it, which is fantastic. Especially with a game with icons, for it to just be so boom and then play it. But I would like some more where maybe prevention of, not necessarily top decking, but essentially top decking, where it's like, I'm going to go here and then just, your turn, go here. Just like, right. It's like, oh, well, it's a point engine. We just played Lost Ruins of Arnak. Totally different game, but the same idea of, I'm just buying cards for points at this point.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I'd rather you gain points throughout and then utilize everything instead of just being like, buy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's points.
Right.
And this kind of has that. But other than that, like solid game. So we'll see where it goes. You guys got anything else?
Nope.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you guys give Meadow?
I think I would actually give it an 8 again, even though it's like I feel like it has a lot of room to improve. And while you said it wouldn't be something that like you'd want to play a lot, I think it's something that I enjoy playing, and maybe it is because of just the art of it. I think it's just enjoyable to look at. It's so pretty.
This card, man.
yeah.
This
When
Comet
that
one.
card came out.
I was like, man, I had like, I think I got rid of them. Yeah, 2 fence cards. I'm like, should I just blow the game just to be like, because I was like, maybe I might have a chance. I was like, should I just get these 2 1-pointers just so I can have this?
Yeah.
It's so pretty. And I don't know what kind of art style you give this, but it's so good.
I think it's all watercolor, right?
It's
It
like
does. It just kind of
Some of
looks
it
like
does look like this is
watercolor.
done.
it's like realistic illustrative.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very colorful.
But it is. I don't know.
It's not cartoon. Everdell's not cartoony, but it's different. This has a semblance of like, I don't know. Maybe it is because it's just watercolor that it comes out. It pops a little bit more.
Yeah. It's kind of reminiscent to like those Audubon paintings, but it's like not quite
No
as
idea.
it's not. The ideal of what like nature illustrations are. Like those are a little more like print looking, but like these kind of have that same feel where it's just like this like a thing in nature. And,
Yeah,
like, you're
yeah,
seeing
yeah.
that thing in nature, like somebody sat there, like saw this thing and decided to like
And to
do
draw
a
it,
quick
yeah,
little,
you're
like,
right.
yeah.
It is. It comes off more as that.
Yeah, it reminds me.
This
of,
wasn't
like,
a picture that someone took of that bird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
that's-
reminds me of stuff that like they would try to have us do like in art school or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably one of my main things, and it's an easy game. Like you said, I think the iconography is like pretty like I don't want to say cut and dry, but it's just like very easy to read, and it's like pretty easy to understand, but still has like different aspects.
There isn't
to
a
it that you can
massive
play.
lag time
Yeah.
in between turns, which I think is important.
Even though I was like staring at stuff for a while.
Yeah.
but
No, and that's mainly on me. In any drafting game, I immediately, and I usually play drafting games at lower player counts because I don't want to wait for anyone's turn.
Yeah.
Role
And that's
player,
especially
I'm like,
important when you're playing like a family game and you have like I could teach this to my daughter, and that starts to develop those like planning ahead themes that are in other games.
Yeah.
Whereas Wingspan, you might be waiting 15 minutes, and then I get to take
Yeah.
this action,
Right.
and this action, and
Right.
this action. Wait. Like,
hold on, that
I've-
lets me bury 15 birds because this is a
Yeah.
murder
It
bird.
reminds me of a story.
yeah.
This has no stories, unless you read the almanac book.
Which
Even still, it doesn't really have stories. It's just
It's
like
it's like a quick
This is a
blurb.
shed.
Oh man, that was like the most pandering, stupid ass.
Maybe it's just
Wood!
to play with who have stories about. Like,
Well, that's the thing is like because Wingspan has the little quick snippet
Yeah.
of what the bird is. I like the fact that they have it here. It could easily have been on the card if they made the cards bigger.
Yeah.
Like if they were standard cards, and I like the fact that they're smaller and at least. I mean, I'll take that. Like that gives some semblance of theme. You get to at least enjoy. Oh, hey, I got a bird or a butterfly now.
one thing we were talking about, a thing that they could do, and would just be straight stolen from Nidavellir.
I think that's how it's pronounced.
Niveldeer?
I think it's Nidavellir.
You could upgrade these through a system. And you
Yeah.
get bonus actions when you take actions with them.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That would be interesting.
I do like the fact that you have to decide, okay, am I going to need my 1 or my 3 at any point? And you're like, okay, no, I don't need my 3. And you pop it over there, do its ability, and then a new card comes out, and you're like, I need specifically a 3. And that's why I would never want to play this at 4, because the question mark gives you that coverage.
Yeah.
So it gives it a little bit of freedom versus in a 4-player game where you would just be like, I feel like you would be at the whim of the deck a lot more, and I wouldn't enjoy it as much. Not that this is a game to be taken seriously, but like I play, respect the game, try to win, and I like to have a little bit more control.
2 token it because I'm never gonna buy roads. I'm just gonna get rid of that.
That was my only hope, because I wasn't getting any cards on here. I'm like,
Well,
all
yeah,
right,
that's- I was gonna
scenery.
say, that's what happened to me,
That's my
too.
chance.
But I think that's even when I am like a little irritated by some, I'm never as frustrated as some other games with this,
Sure.
because it is like I kind of just don't feel
'cause
that much
some-
pressure, because
Yeah.
just it is what it is.
Or I mean,
Like,
that's why I like the dual actions, because it's like, oh man, I used up the only number I can use to get that card,
Yeah.
or it's all blocked off, and even though there's 3 options to get somewhere, well, I still have my 1. I'll pop it over here, and then that lets me just take any card.
yeah.
Really, the only control I'd like is be able to not wipe the whole board. That would just be awful. It would just like, because then you'd have to set it all up again. But maybe a row or a column.
Yeah.
Like, instead of using one of these, like, instead you just don't take a card, but you can wipe it. Or you can wipe it and still take a card.
Yeah.
That would be nice. You know what I bet they could do? Is, I had it, because I was thinking of, I bet you the water ones are going to have completely different icons that only water. So it might muddy up depending on how they do the deck, it might muddy it up, but you're going to go more aquatic. You either go aquatic or you go land.
Yeah.
And very few use each other. I mean, because you might get a bird that does eat fish because they dive in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably where the complexities get, where you're really looking for. So if they're going to do that, then they might have to find different ways for you to cycle through the cards a lot more.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, if they have like 2 different iconography on the like newer cards, I feel like it might make it difficult to like incorporate like these cards into that.
I was almost
that
wondering
makes
if it'd be a
sense.
separate board.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the land, and then here's, river, swamp, ocean. Like
Yeah.
it's a separate thing. Because it is an expansion, and it doesn't seem like it's standalone, so it has to tie in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zach, what was your score? You give it an 8?
Um.
Because you also played it solo.
Yeah, and it's really good solo. I'll probably get bored with it myself, but it'll also probably get played because it's light and we can sit and drink beer and talk like while we're playing it. It's also, it can be very crunchy. Like any game that gets you to the moment where you're like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do? Oh, you took that spot.
Right.
There's something good about the game if it's that
Right,
tight.
and that's why I'm not sitting here going like, I'd rather play Splendor than that, like at least this has some thought behind it.
But yeah, I would probably give it a 7 as of now.
Yeah, no, that's exactly where I'm at, as a 7. It like, if I was I'd give it an 8 for art, like to go up to art, but in terms of gameplay, I'm right
I think the
there.
art's even better than Wingspan in this, definitely.
Wingspan is definitely more illustrated. I mean, there's no scenery. It's
Yeah.
just a bird. But like, comparing it to all the other nature games, Everdell just kills it with its art, because that tells stories the way you build your tableau, because you're building a village. Obviously, completely different games, but same type of theme idea. But I was kind of thinking the same thing. I was like, I played this a few times. Yeah, I think that's it. But if people would be like, oh, we're playing Meadow, you want to play? Oh, how many are there? 4? No. 3? Okay, I'll jump in. And play with 3. But honestly, I might enjoy this at 2. Like,
It's a lot more, I think, it's not as tight when it's just 2 players.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just,
But this game almost leans as if it wants it to be very casual. So
Yeah.
a 2-player game where it's like, okay, like, no one, you're not taking any of my cards, I'm not taking any of yours. We're just really just chill,
Yeah.
playing a fun, beautiful game.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this was on anyone's top 10 of 2021.
Dice Tower did a bunch of reviews with like the B team and the A team. And
Yeah.
it was the most.
It was on the B team, I think it was or the A team is whatever they called themselves.
What's the pirate game? Pirate Cove, Pirate something.
Merchant's Cove.
Merchant Cove that was a common one, but this one was probably the most common.
I think so. Now that I forgot about the A team that did it. This was on their list.
Yeah.
So, and I totally get it. Like, it's very delightful. So, here's hoping the expansion brings some life into it. But we'll see. Alright, so that's our thoughts on Meadow. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.